All right, and we are back. So I want to thank Jaron Chang, Dr. Bhumika Muchala, and Mason Donovan and Mark Kaplan for coming on the podcast. It is, always tough to, uh, try to secure people, especially if, holidays approaching. And I just really, really am thankful that all of them took the time this week to come on and do their interviews. And I hope that they enjoyed their holiday. Um, as like I said, when you hear this episode, the holiday will have passed. Um, but again, what I want to stress is, with the people that come on here are people that are really trying to do good work. Um, whether it's in getting more people engaged, getting more people educated, or creating environments for people to live their lives, right? It's really, really important to have people uh, that are smart, that are articulate, and are committed to do those things, right? Um, and so I just thank Jaron, Dr. Machala, and Mason and Mark for their contributions and following that tradition and that trend. Um, I'm not going to hold y'all long because y'all know what's going on. I guess biggest thing is we know that Donald Trump, our president, has been making money uh, as president while everybody else is trying to do it honestly and and just working their butts off to make ends meet in these challenging economic times. I can't say tough because we're not in a depression like maybe our grandparents or some people great grandparents were in. Um, but I do want y'all to keep that in mind when we're going to vote, because we've got people who think that it's okay. We got this congressman who's not running for reelection, but his brother is. And I don't know if it's his twin brother because they look exactly alike, or is just his brother. But they're brothers. They can't deny it if they tried. Um, this guy named Troy Nels, I think his name is. He used to be a sheriff in Texas. And a reporter asked him, he had said something about over the holiday weekend he was going to have lobster and steak. And the reporter asked him, well, what about the majority of the population that can't afford lobster and steak? And he said that they need to work as hard as he does. So just to break that down, he makes $174,000 a year to work 88 days out of a year. So most of us work more than 88 days in a year, and we're not making that kind of money. For those of you all who are making that kind of money, keep pushing, keep doing what you're doing, and continue to strive to do better, because you're gonna need it. Because those of us that ain't making that kind of money, we trying to find ways to get as much money as we can just to take care of what we need, right? But when we got elected officials that don't care about that, um, that are so brazen now, then we need to use the power that we have to send them home. And let's see how many lobster dinners and all that stuff he's going to eat, when he ain't making that $174,000 a year. I'm sure he's probably set, because those people take care of their own. But for the rest of us, we'll see. The only other thing that was kind of big was the sister Malak Quiros beat a 16-year incumbent in Colorado in the Democratic primary. So there's going to be some changes in there because that district's pretty much a Democratic district. And barring anything crazy that she might say or do, she's going to be in there. But she is a classic story of a person who went to law school, had a job at a good firm, took a political stance on something, lost her job, was a coffee barista, and then she decided, I'm going to run for Congress. And she won. You know, just because you see people at some of these jobs don't mean that they're not intelligent people. You don't know what their story is. And Ms. Quiros is a classic example of that. AOC is a classic example of that. She was working as a waitress at a restaurant when she got elected. You know, so I was a deputy sheriff when I got elected. You know, so it's like you can't judge a book by its cover, especially when it comes to public service, because no matter what you think of the four founders, the founding fathers, or whatever you want to call them, you know, that vision that they had about America was divinely inspired. And when they came years later after the Declaration was signed and they fought the Revolutionary War, when they were forming the country and drafting a constitution, the most important thing they wanted to have was representation from the people. And that's why Article 1 is about Congress and setting that up first. That's why Congress gets sworn in before the president does, because this is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And our most representative body is the House of Representatives in Washington. So that's why when we have a congressman saying, well, you know, I can eat lobster and steak, I don't know why ain't nobody else able to do it. Those are people that are not in tune with their constituents. Because I promise you, Fort Bend, Texas, and I've never been there, but I promise you Fort Bend, Texas does not have everybody in that population eating lobster and steak whenever they want to, right? And so that's why it's important for us to have people and have a diverse group of people in the House of Representatives, because that is the body that represents America more than the president, more than the Senate, more than the Supreme Court. And even though the Supreme Court has this unique qualification where all you have to be is a citizen to serve, most of the people that get picked for that job are not average citizens. They've gone to Ivy League colleges and law schools and all that kind of stuff, you know. And it's not to say that Ivy League people are any different than any other human beings, but because of the tradition of those schools, especially Harvard and Yale, because those are kind of like the founding institutions, and we've talked about this on the podcast, of the United States. You know, it's a little different. But that's okay, because we need some of them in Congress, and we need some coffee baristas and waitresses in Congress. We need people that sell feed in Congress. We need people that sell insurance in Congress. We need people that own construction companies, or people that are actually construction workers, farmers, doctors, lawyers. We need everybody, right? So if you have the compunction, if you have the commitment to get out there and run, do it. If you're not successful, okay, the world's not going to end, but your commitment to service shouldn't end, right? It's a humbling experience when you don't win an election, but it shouldn't take your fire away if you don't win. And if you do win, remember who you are and don't let the system taint you in any way where you forget who you are, where you came from, and who your people are, right? Because once you get in positions where people are patting you on the back and giving you special privilege, you can get caught in a trap. Your ego can get stroked. And so you have to have a strong enough core belief in what you were going up there to do and maintain that. And that applies to any elected position. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be Congress. It could be your state legislature. It could be your county commission, or county board, your school board, city council. Doesn't matter. We have all these positions in place to make sure that the people are heard at every level, right? So, I just want you to take the lesson of Malak Heroes and a lot of these other folks that are out here running, some of the people that have been on the podcast, and just like Kaylee Peterson, for example, or Dr. Jasmine Clark, Wallet Begay, Amanda Janu, George Hernando, all these people that jumped out here. And there were some people I was like, really? They're going to run for office? And then other people was like, the fire is in them. And they're, even if they don't win, they're still going to be out here pushing, right? And that's what I like people to be. And I always say, I don't want you to be a political junkie like I am. You don't have to be that. But I do want you to be engaged. I do want you to pay attention to what's happening, because the decisions that are being made in all these state capitals and at the U.S. Capitol impact you. And you need to know what is going on and why it's happening, and understand that you have the power to say, I'm not feeling it. And you can change the leadership, right? If you're not happy with a president that's made $2 billion in 1 year being president, then don't support that president, right? Now, this president can't run for election, so once his term is out, he's done. But there's others of his ilk that say, well, if he got away with it, maybe I can too. And we have the power to say, no, that's one and done. That's not happening anymore. We can stop that, right? The other thing is that I want to give a report. So as I'm recording this now, the event has not happened, but I'll give a summary next episode about Martyrs Day. So as you remember, Gloria Brown Marshall, who wrote this incredible book called A Protest History of the United States, while she was doing her book tour, she kind of got inspired to say we need to have a day to recognize the civilians who gave their lives for our freedom. And, the obvious names like Dr. King or Malcolm X or Medgar Evers, but there's other people like Renee Good and Alex Preddy, right? And all the way back to Crispus Attucks, right? 6 years before the Declaration of Independence, he gave his life, protesting the British. So, there needs to be some kind of recognition, and other countries do that. Other countries have a tradition of honoring their martyrs, the civilians that gave their life to advance the nation. And so she thought that it would be a good idea for us in America to do the same thing. And so the plan is every July 5th from this day forward will be designated as Martyrs Day in the United States. Now, we're not advocating it to be a national holiday and all that, but that may happen if we keep this thing going, right? And, it's one thing to celebrate the independence of a nation. It's another thing to acknowledge the people who are not soldiers at war, who gave their lives to make sure that independence continues, right? That tyranny doesn't set in, whether it's in a region of the country, a city in the country, or in the nation as a whole, right? And so, based on the conversation and the interviews that I had with Ms. Brown Marshall, it was coming to realize that we weren't having, nobody had stepped up to do one here in the Atlanta area. And so I reached out to a couple people, and like I said, by the time that you hear this podcast, we would have done it that Sunday. The July 5th falls on a Sunday this year. So I will give a report about how that went, not only from the local perspective, but from the national perspective as well. Because we're going to do ours, we would have done ours that morning, and the national would have happened that afternoon, right? So I'll kind of give a brief wrap up about how that went and all that stuff. And hopefully some of y'all that normally listen to the podcast would have been in attendance at that day. We're not expecting a big crowd because, it was kind of like last minute trying to put something together, but we just wanted to do something to acknowledge the day and set the groundwork and the foundation so that next year, July 5th will be a bigger deal. And we want to keep this going. And, as long as Sister Brown Marshall and I and others are on this side of reality, we're going to do our part to kind of keep it going. So I just wanted to kind of give you a preview of that, and then I'll give you the update next week. So that's really all I got. I appreciate y'all sitting through another long episode. Excuse me, as you do all these other episodes, because again, I want you to get to know these people and know what they are doing. I don't want to give you like a 2-minute, 5-minute hit on something as major as, ending the accumulation culture of capitalism, right? Or how employers can be more responsive to employees that are having children, right? You can't just do that in 5 minutes. you need to flesh some things out, right? And pick people's brains, especially these brilliant people that are coming on the show. So I appreciate y'all sticking with me. I appreciate y'all's support. And we're just going to keep it going. We're just going to keep it going because we got to. We got to. So, all right, that is all I have. Like I said, next week, Grace will be back, and we'll have a full show. And I may not have any guests next week. That's still kind of up in the air, but if I don't, then it'll just be a hot mic episode, and you'll just get to hear me talk and rant and rave, and I'll probably have a lot to talk about based on how everything's going after we celebrate 250 years of existence. All right, guys. On that note, like I said, that's all I got. Until next time.